Let's pray. God, we beseech thee, Almighty God, members of this honorable house, that they may wisely deliberate for the good of this country and for the glory of thy holy name. Please join me in saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Pray be seated. This honorable house now commences.
Item 3, announcements by Mr. Speaker.
Good morning, honorable members. Just a few announcements. I am informed that Honorable Tevin Andrew and Honorable Andy Williams would not be here with us today in the sitting. They are away on state business. I wish to inform this honorable house as well that the clerk of the parliament will not be here with us. He is on a conference in Trinidad, a conference for clerks of parliaments in the Caribbean. And so he is attending that session. And those are my announcements.
Item 4, motions.
Leader of Government Business.
Good morning to this honorable house and happy 51st anniversary to all of Grenada. Mr. Speaker, I wish to propose the following resolution for the Water Resource Management and Regulation Bill of 2025 reads as follows. Whereas it set at its meeting on the 4th of February 2025 made amendments to the Water Resource Management and Regulation Bill 2025. Whereas the Senate is desirous of the concurrence of the House of Representatives, be it resolved that the amendment be accepted by this honorable House. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Government Business. Honorable members, the question is, whereas the Senate at its meeting on 4th February 2025 made amendments to the Water Resource Management and Regulation Bill 2025, whereas the Senate is desirous of the concurrence of the House of Representatives, be it resolved that the amendments made be accepted. I hope that members had a chance to observe or notice the amendments that they have put forward from the other house. So this is the motion before us. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, on speaking on this resolution, I intended to just refer the House to the respective changes. So I was going to go through the changes, so at least...
Yes, this will be in order.
Yes.
Yes.
So
proceed, please.
Proceed?
Yes, proceed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as per the said resolution, the These are the following amendments. On page 10, Mr. Speaker, in the enacting formula, the preamble, the word Queens, apostrophe S, where it appears, must be now substituted for the word Kings, apostrophe S. On page 13, Mr. Speaker, in the definition, the term government must now be deleted. Sorry. The term government, delete the words Kairuku and Piti Martinique where it appears in the definition. So the definition should now read, Mr. Speaker, government would mean the government of Grenada. And finally, Mr. Speaker, in reference to this particular resolution on page 14, the definition of the term state, delete the words Carriacou and Piti Martinique, and the new definition would now read, Mr. Speaker, state means the state of Grenada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Leader of Government Business. All right, I take it to mean that we have no other comments. I'm going to put the question before the floor so we can take the vote. Honorable members, the question is, whereas the Senate at its meeting on the 4th February 2025 made amendments to the Water Resource Management and Regulation Bill 2025, whereas the Senate is desirous of the concurrence of the House of Representatives, be it resolved that the amendments be made, that the amendments be accepted. Those who have that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. Indeed, the ayes have it. Amendments accepted. Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This particular amendment, Mr. Speaker, being the second amendment, is in direct reference to the National Water and Sewage Authority Amendment Bill 2025. And it reads as follows. Whereas the Senate at its meeting held on February 4, 2025, made amendments to the National Water and Sewage Authority Amendment Bill 2025, whereas the Senate is desirous of concurrence of the House of Representatives, be it resolved that the amendments be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Government Business. Honorable members, the question is, whereas the Senate at its meeting on the 4th February 2025 made amendments to the National Water and Sewage Authority Amendment Bill 2025, and whereas the Senate is desirous of the concurrence of the House of Representatives, be it resolved that the amendments be accepted. Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in reference to the said amendment, the following is recommended by the Senate. In clause 2, Mr. Speaker, of the bill, it is requested that paragraph A be deleted and substitute as follows, by deleting the definition of water course and water supply service. 2, in clause 7, which amends section 11, the Principal Act, in subsection 1, delete the words subsection 11 and replace with
Section 12.
Subsection 12, replaced with Section 12. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Leader of Government Business. All right, I now call the question so we can vote. Honorable members, the question is that whereas the Senate at its meeting on the 4th February 2025 made amendments to the National Water and Sewage Authority Amendment Bill 2025, and whereas the Senate is desirous of the concurrence of the House of Representatives, be it resolved that the amendments be accepted. Those of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. Indeed, the ayes have it. Deal of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The final resolution, Mr. Speaker, treats with the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission Amendment Bill 2025. Reads as follows. Whereas the Senate at its meeting held on 4th of February 2025 made amendments to the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission Amendment Bill 2025, and whereas the Senate is desirous of the concurrence of the House of Representatives, be it resolved that the amendments be accepted. Thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that whereas the Senate at its meeting on the 4th February 2025 made amendments to the Public Utility Regulatory Commission Amendment Bill 2025, and whereas the Senate is desirous of the concurrence of the House of Representatives, be it resolved that the amendments be accepted. Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in reference to the said resolution, the following amendment is proposed. It is proposed that Clause 4, subsection B, subsection A, subsection I, to include the word law after the word trade. That would be the amendment for this particular resolution, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Government Business. I now pose the question. Honorable members, the question is, whereas the Senate at its meeting on the 4th February 2025 made amendments to the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission Amendment Bill 2025, and whereas the Senate is desirous of the concurrence of the House of Representatives, be it resolved that the amendments be accepted. Those of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. Indeed, the ayes have it.
Item 5, request for leave to move the adjournment of the House on matters of public importance.
Leader of Government Business. Sorry. I'm seeing her light. I'm seeing her light. MP for St. Andrew Northeast.
Morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today not only as a member of Parliament, but as a citizen who has experienced a grave violation. And this is the first time I'm speaking publicly on this matter: the unauthorized recording of my personal, not government, my personal cell phone screen by a stranger in this house. Every time I open my phone now, I have to turn back to look at the strangers. And I'm aware of who the strangers were in the house at the time. Mr. Speaker, this is more than just a personal concern. It is a matter of principle, integrity, and security. If a sitting member of this House can have their privacy breached in this manner, Mr. Speaker, what does it say about the safety and confidentiality of others? Not just me, our fellow citizens, journalists, even government officials, Mr. Speaker. The seriousness of this matter must not be overlooked. The use of covert surveillance tactics against any individual, let alone a legislator, is deeply troubling, and it raises pressing questions. 1, who is responsible for this act? 2, what was their intention? And 3, how was this allowed to happen in this House of Parliament, an institution that should uphold the highest standards of security and ethics? Mr. Speaker, as I said, this is not just about me. It is a dangerous precedent that it sets. And if such action goes unchecked, we risk normalizing a culture where privacy is disregarded and intimidation is tolerated. It erodes trust in our democratic institutions. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I am calling on you. I am demanding a thorough investigation of this breach. Those who are responsible must be held accountable, and immediate measures should be taken to strengthen the security and privacy protocols in this House. We cannot allow technology to be weaponized against individuals for malicious practices. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, the Electronic Crimes Act must be enforced in this matter. And further laws must be put in place to protect against such unauthorized surveillance and digital espionage. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, let it be known that privacy is not a privilege. It is a right. Today, it is my privacy that was invaded. Tomorrow, it could be yours. I urge this Parliament to take a stand to protect but the fundamental rights of every citizen we serve. I will not rest, Mr. Speaker, until justice is served. I thank you.
All right. Let me just say at this point that when you have a special sitting, the House deals with the matter only for which the special sitting is called. If the House has to deviate from the special sitting, the individual or individuals need to obtain leave from the Speaker to so do. I understand the Honorable MP situation, right? But this is the procedure. It's done in the standing orders, right? So when a special sitting is called, this is exactly what we come here to do, deal with the matter. If you want other matters to be dealt with, then you seek the leave for such. Right? That is done in our standing orders. So let's not forget this. Right? It's okay to discuss other matters, but we need to seek leave to so do, according to our standing orders. I see MP, your light was up, so I see yours as well, but ours was before. MP for St. Andrew Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I believe that it will be remiss of me not to provide this honorable House, though it's a special sitting, to some ongoing efforts to strengthen mental health services in Grenada. Just yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we proudly delivered 10 specialized beds at Mongay Mental Hospital, marking a decisive step towards elevating patient care and support. These beds are tailored to the unique needs of mental health patients, ensuring they receive the high standard of care, the first of its type for the institution. The initiative, Mr. Speaker, reflects our unwavering commitment to mental health, a commitment that will continue to grow as 20 additional beds are on their way. Through this investment, we are not only enhancing healthcare infrastructure, but also reinforcing our dedication to the well-being of every citizen of this country. Mr. Speaker, I am also very pleased to announce that we have recorded a significant decline in admittance. In 2023, our mental health facility admitted 411 patients. Last year, we have seen the decline of admission with 190 patients admitted. Mr. Speaker, this encouraging development is a testament to our government, my government's steadfast commitment to improving the systems. These figures reflect the impact of our proactive approach, particularly in early detection and relapses, and the launching of the community or intensifying the community outreach program. Last year, we provided a brand new vehicle to our staff, and we intensified staff in every parish. So now our mental health staff are in every parish taking care and educating families. And that's why we are seeing the decline. I also like to place on record our commendation to our people in the diaspora who gave us 12 first aid bags that we can distribute to our staff. As a government also, we provided incentive packages to motivate our staff in the field. And so we are reaping the benefit. But Mr. Speaker, we have just started. We'll continue, Mr. Speaker, to end stigma, to end discrimination. We'll continue with our education process at the level of the community and intensify that this year and also at the level of the school. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MP for St. Andrew North West. All right. Honorable MP for St. Andrew Southeast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning and I crave your indulgence, the fact that you've just allowed an additional speaker to speak on the adjournment on a matter that is not on the order paper this morning.
Yeah, it's a special sitting, as I explained.
Right, and I trust that you allow me to have the same privilege this morning. Can I proceed?
Go ahead. You'll be the last.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thought about not addressing this issue when you said that it's a special sitting. And I thought, okay, we'll soon have another sitting and I'll use the opportunity to make my comments on the matter that I wish to raise. But Mr. Speaker, when I listened to the previous presentation, and while I applaud and I recognize the value of decreasing the number of people at the mental health hospital. Although I say, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy for that, but let's take a note of the increase of such persons on the streets in Grenville, for example. But when I note that this was given preference and priority, I felt there is an urge. I cannot leave this house today without addressing this particular issue. Mr. Speaker, what happened in this honorable house at the last sitting that was referenced by the member for St. Andrew Northeast? Mr. Speaker, I don't believe it's just deeply troubling, but Mr. Speaker, I think it really hits to the core of our democracy and our integrity. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this. I've had the opportunity to serve in this house on previous occasions. And I want to say with certainty that there has never been what I described as such a vile and disrespectful act committed in this house against a member, and I say against our democracy. Mr. Speaker, it's not simple, and it must never be simplified to just an act against an individual. And for us to be dismissive about this morning would be simply saying that we do not respect the very democracy that this house is supposed to protect. Mr. Speaker, Parliament is supposed to be a safe place. As a matter of fact, it's supposed to be one of the safest places. Not by mere virtue of the rights that it gives to the protection of individuals in this place, but Mr. Speaker, the world, the nation, expect that members of this house and members in general, people in general, ought to be respected and ought to be protected. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, when we come here, it ought to be without any fear or any intimidation. And what happened in this house, Mr. Speaker, at the last sitting, I am convinced that the ulterior motive must be intimidation, fear, disrespect, Mr. Speaker, among others. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, when my colleague from St. Andrew Northeast made reference to an investigation, I want to add to that, Mr. Speaker. It ought to be an investigation in which every member of this house feel confident in the investigator. It must not just be an ordinary investigation. As a matter of fact, there's been a lot of speculations and name-calling as to who it is and who it isn't and all of that. Mr. Speaker, after the sitting, a young lady gave her experience of what she saw. Mr. Speaker, speaking to another person, that person was sitting on this side of the house. Speaking to another person who was sitting on that side of the house, it's very interesting what that person had to say. And so I'm saying this morning, Mr. Speaker, that I would like that you will take the right, the liberty, the responsibility to ensure that this matter be thoroughly investigated. The findings of the investigation be brought to this house, and the consequences, Mr. Speaker, must send a very strong message that in the history of this house, that such an act must never be committed again. Mr. Speaker, I stress what I said before. It must not be a basic investigation. It must not be just done for being done sake, right? It must be done, Mr. Speaker, with the highest level of confidence among the members of this house. Mr. Speaker, every single one of us in this house every single one of us, I am sure, when we open our computers, when we open our phones, there are confidential information, notices, information that you want to access. You're in here in some cases for an entire day. So it is very obvious, Mr. Speaker, that on our phones, on our devices, will be very confidential information. Mr. Speaker, do I have to be turning around to look at who is behind me? I don't know if I trust this person. I don't know if I trust. Mr. Speaker, what are we bringing to this institution? Are we going to say as of today no one should be sitting in the first row in the balcony, Mr. Speaker? What are we going to say? How do you feel, Mr. Speaker? I am afraid, Mr. Speaker, to open my laptop this morning. Because when I come here, I use the laptop that you provide, but I use it sparingly, Mr. Speaker. And I don't need to say why. So anything that I have to look at except that of the order paper, I use my personal computer. Now, I will not open it this morning because I don't have the time to be looking around to see who is behind me. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying this to say this is me here. This is another member here. Who will be here tomorrow? And so this must not be trivialized. It must not be watered down in a way that we are sending the message because it's members of the New National Party opposition, it must not be given the same attention as if it was a member on the other side. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I wish to strongly recommend that not just the investigation be conducted, but that you circulate, you invite response from both sides as it relates to who leads this investigation. We want to feel comfortable that we can trust the results of the investigation. And I appeal to you, Mr. Speaker, you are in charge of this House, and you have an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the democracy, the respect of this House be maintained. We ought not to go to under the established levels that we have had in the past. And Mr. Speaker, I trust that good sense will prevail in that regard. Mr. Speaker, this must not be accepted as normal. And so this morning, I believe that every member of this House must stand in the affirmative that some investigation must be made, action must be taken, and this must never happen in our lifetime and beyond. And so I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP for St. Andrew Southeast.
Well, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Well, I want to make sure that I'm being recognized before I say.
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think you've allowed, frankly, the process to act in such a manner that we may be opening a can of worms in the sense that process-wise, you've allowed two persons to speak on matters which you said ought not to speak.
Say it again?
I said you've allowed two honorable members, or three, to speak on matters which you said ought not to be addressed at a special sitting.
Of course.
The problem, Mr. Speaker, is then you'd have on record 15 minutes of matters going on the record, which I feel, in the way in which it's presented, although it's directed to you, and I'm hearing about both members of the House having trust and confidence in an investigation and so on, may, frankly, in my view, if there isn't a response from this side, convey the wrong impression about what is being said and about what happened.
All right. So I'll create balance. Two on this side, two on this side.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I will go first by saying a couple of things. First, as I understand it, somebody took a photograph of the honorable member for St. Andrews Northeast phone, and either themselves published it publicly on social media or some other platform, or sent it to someone who published it. Let me state for the record, and I can say so confidently, that myself and members of the House do not, in any way, shape, or form, support this particular deed that was done. And if the Speaker and the House has the capacity to find out who did the act, in my view, they should be held to account. I will go on record and say further that I'm aware that Mr. Dwayne Thomas, who's the official photographer for the office of the Prime Minister, was accused of doing so, and Mr. Thomas is right here. And I don't expect him to do so. He's right here. He's under your jurisdiction, and you could ask him and put a question to him right now whether he did such a thing. And I will go further and say he's prepared to make his phone and other devices available that he takes his work with and subject it to you or anybody else to verify the data captured on that date and time in relation to his phone. So I want to state that clearly. Thirdly, and I want to make it clear, the people who sit here on this side of the House is not responsible for the actions of individuals. And I will go on record as well as saying that if it is a supporter, sympathizer, etc., of the National Democratic Congress, that in no way, shape, or form should take away from the fact that I certainly don't think that that behavior is appropriate and should be accepted. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I also want us to not embellish and exaggerate and engage in hyperbole and conspiracy theory about what happened. What happened is that someone's phone, a photograph was taken, and it was published. This is not a private place. This is the House of Representatives, and members of the public are entitled to come. If this computer is on, someone sitting there can, in fact, possibly, the eyesight is good enough, read what's on it. And the idea that we could somehow prevent or stop them from reading out it or even taking notes of it is frankly foolish, impractical, and makes absolutely no sense. Third, we also have to deal with the realities of the time. The realities is that we collectively post all kinds of things about all kinds of things that we do on social media. All kinds of stuff. So this notion about privacy when you're a public official is one that you have to be careful about, because the reality is, on any given day, we're on our phones all over the time, all over the place, people take pictures of it and do whatever they want. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, you may be entitled to privacy in the confines of your home or in the confines of private property. But the reality is, as public figures, what privacy are you entitled to in a public space carrying out public duties? Certainly, someone is not entitled to breach your personal space or attempt to intimidate or assault you or any of those kinds of things. But as public officials, in the public, carrying out public functions, you must be subjected to scrutiny. Someone may take a photo of you that you may not like, but the fact is, they're not doing anything wrong. They're not breaching your privacy. So we need to understand that we can, on the one hand, want to show the public everything we're doing, even in private spaces, and not realize the inevitable snowball effect of some of that permissive and exhibitionist culture that we, as part of the social media era, are part of. So I just want to make sure that there's balance in this. As far as we're concerned, Mr. Speaker, you are free to investigate this matter as you so wish. You don't have to consult us about no investigator. You don't have to consult us about terms of the investigation. You are the Speaker, and you have absolute free rein in conducting any inquiry or investigation that you may so wish to. And as I said, at least for those who are under charge, in terms of the persons from either the government office itself or from the Prime Minister's office who are responsible for content creation, data collection, photographs, etc. I'm putting it on record that they are available to be questioned, and on the date pertaining to the matter, the data is available. So we, on our side here, have no issues whatsoever with any inquiry. And I repeat, it is not something I support. It is distasteful, but we have to be careful about distaste, because taste is subjective, and some suggestion of some wider, grander conspiracy theory. So I just wanted to state on record, Mr. Speaker, our position on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I heard you clearly. You gave 2 on the opposition side and 2 on the government side, speaking on a particular subject matter. So I believe I would like to add my voice on the particular subject, to balance the equation on the particular subject matter. 2 on the opposition side, 2 on the government side. May I proceed, Mr. Speaker? Thank you. No, you said, Mr. Speaker, given 2 on each side, and so on the particular subject matter.
No.
The person on the government side.
No. Honorable.
Hold on, Mr. Speaker. Let me just explain.
Yeah.
The first person on the government side spoke on matters in relation to her ministry, her government portfolio as a minister. This particular subject is an incident that happened in the Parliament of Grenada. And you said, Mr. Speaker, that you've given 2 on each side. You give 2 on the opposition side.
Yeah.
Then I expect you to give 2 on the government side because you said, Mr. Speaker, you're giving 2 on each side. So I ask for your permission to add my voice for 1 minute.
Let me just hold, please. Let me say exactly what I meant. It's a special sitting, and I said before that we simply have to deal with matters before us, and that's it. Then those are my words. It so happened that other MPs wanted to speak, even without getting leave from the House, from the Speaker. So I said just now that I allowed 2 persons from this side and 2 persons from this side to speak. Right? To speak. Not on a particular matter, to speak. So that is done. It's now for the adjournment. It's a special sitting. So let's stick to it, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a bit unfortunate that that's the situation. But, Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the adjournment. I now move that the House be adjourned. Signed, I. Thank you.
Honorable members, the question is, I think I should carry, that the House be adjourned, signed, I. Those of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. Indeed, the ayes has it. This Honorable House now stands adjourned, signed, I.